Hello everyone, welcome to our NDIS Transition Programme webinar. CBB is delighted to be offering this programme to disability service providers in South Australia, funded by the Department for Communities and Social Inclusion. Just to give you a little bit of notice that we have a chat screen that you can use to ask questions, but please be aware that if you do enter anything in the chat screen, the name that you use to register for the webinar will show in the screen and will be visible to other attendees. So if you want to remain anonymous, you can email us through our dedicated email address, ndistransition@cbb.com.au, but please be aware we won't be checking those emails during the course of this webinar. We'll follow up on those after the webinar. Okay, so there's the email address for you to use should you wish to, and just to run you through the programme for this morning. I am Jane Arnott. I'm the NDIS Programme Director. I'm also the General Manager for Consulting and Business Services at CBB. You can find information on all of the staff involved in the programme on the dedicated NDIS programme website we sent you the login details for last week. So please do look on there to find out more about the people that you'll be working with over the coming year. Our programme for this morning is to just run you through a bit of an introduction, talk about the programme, and support your transition to NDIS, and then what you need to do next. We're expecting today's session to take no more than 45 minutes. Just to give you a bit of background about CBB, I know that a number of the providers that are engaging in this programme are existing CBB clients who know us well, and we'll be looking forward to working with you more over the course of the next year. But in terms of those that aren't familiar with us, Community Business Bureau is a not-for-profit social enterprise, so we operate on a fee-for-service model. We have our origins in the disability sector, so we were established from SCOSA about 22 years ago now, and we are based in South Australia, so we're based in Kensington in Adelaide. What do? We support not-for-profits, and that's very much our mission, is providing support to not-for-profits, and really we're focused on helping you to attract and retain the right people, to build financial resilience, and to cut through the noise, so to be heard above the noise from a marketing perspective, but also to cut through some of the distractions that might steer you off course occasionally. We do that through providing business services, consulting, and salary packaging services to not-for-profits. So we work through a team of consultants with this programme who have experience in disability, in the not-for-profit sector, in business, and in change and project management. So how this webinar will work, we've muted you, which isn't because we don't want to hear from you, but it's to avoid distraction and lots of noises in the background on the webinar. As we said, you can ask questions by typing into the panel at any point, but the name you're registered with will be visible. So if you want to remain anonymous, please just send us a question via email to our NDIS transition inbox. We're recording this webinar, and we're doing a series of 3 webinars, so we'll pick the best of 3 and load it onto the website so you can share it with colleagues, and we'll do that in the next couple of weeks. We have 2 more webinars next week. If we can't ask any questions, answer any questions that you pose during the webinar, we will try and cover those off later, either via email or through FAQs that we'll again put on our website. Okay, so a bit more information about the programme. Just to give you a background on the purpose of the programme, we went through a competitive tendering process with DCSI to be appointed to run this programme, and they clarified during the course of the tendering process that what they're looking to do through this work is to reduce the risk of market failure and to maintain the diversity of service provision. So basically to support that diversity of choice for people with disability in terms of accessing services under the NDIS. So we're tasked to work with you on business model transformation where required, on action planning and mentoring, and we'll talk through more of that during the course of this webinar. So really what we're looking at working with you so that you're operational against these 6 areas. And again, we'll cover these in more detail over the course of the session. But looking at understanding the market, your service delivery model, your marketing and sales pipeline, your business model and financials, so how financially ready are you for NDIS, compliance, quality systems and processes, so all of the hygiene factors required for you to be able to operate in the NDIS environment, and then looking at your workforce leadership and governance, so the cultural and training factors that you need to have in place. So as I said, we were awarded this contract through a competitive process. We have experience in working with disability organisations. It's very much the origins of CBB, and we provided a similar service about 3 years ago to organisations that were providing children's services under the NDIS pilot in South Australia. So we have previous experience of providing this type of support. And we were awarded the contract earlier this month, so May this year. So the requirements under this programme from CBB perspective is to identify your gaps and shortfalls in service. So that's a specific requirement that's within our contract with DCSI, is to look at where are the gaps that you have in transitioning to the NDIS, and then to work with you to build an action plan to support you to operate in the NDIS environment, which may include changing your business model to a fee-for-service model if you don't have current functionality or current experience of offering services on that basis. And we'll also provide you with mentoring to support that transition. And again, under the contract requirements, we're required to complete that mentoring by the end of May next year. So how will we go about supporting your transition? So I'm conscious that this is a bit of a busy slide. Apologies for that, but we'll talk you through the process. So the website and this webinar represent your welcome to the programme. So this is providing you with the opportunity to learn more about the programme and understand how it works and how it impacts on your organisation. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll send you a survey, and we'll talk a bit more about that survey later, and we'll ask you to sign up to the programme, so for you to make your commitment and engagement with the programme. We might ask you to provide us with further documentation, so that's additional information we might need following on from your survey response, and we'll allocate each provider to a stage of the programme. We're expecting to be working with over 80 service providers during the course of the year, so we're going to group you into clusters, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. Once you've been allocated to your cluster and we're ready to start the programme with you, your consultant will call you to validate the information that we have about you and to plan an action planning workshop. That workshop is critical to the remaining support under the programme, and the expectation is that that will involve key staff and members of your leadership team who have the authority to make decisions and implement change on behalf of your organisation. Based on that workshop, we'll develop an action plan with you and also identify any changes you need to make to your business model, and that will be signed off by you. So it's not us telling you what to do, it's us agreeing with you what you're going to do in terms of NDIS transition. And then we'll be able to provide you with mentoring, with a small amount of additional consulting support to help you address one of your action plan areas. There's a grant available from DCSI as well, and we will conduct a range of surveys during the programme and after to ensure that you're progressing through the action plan and that we're achieving the desired results for you. So to talk through those aspects in a little more detail, the action planning workshop will be a half day, and obviously we'll agree those dates with you based on the timeline that we have for your programme. And as we say, we would like that to involve key members of your team with authority to make decisions and to implement and lead through change within your organisation as required. The action plan will identify key activities to transition to the NDIS, including priorities, and we will include within that an agreement around where we will provide you with additional targeted support. There's a small amount of additional support available to help with issues such as identifying your data requirements, looking at perhaps your marketing needs, perhaps some of the cultural change required, or looking into more detail at your financials. We'll also provide up to 6 one-hour mentoring sessions to help you work through the action plan and navigate any roadblocks or challenges that you've got in relation to the action plan. And then DCSI is making available to each provider a grant of up to $10,000 for you to deliver against a particular action plan area. And this is a grant direct to you. So we will agree with you which area that it will be focused on, and then it has to be something from within your action plan, but DCSI will pay it direct to you. It's not managed or administered by CBB. In terms of the timeline, as I said, we're delivering this program over a 12-month period, and what we will do is split you probably into 4 different clusters. We anticipate that we'll be working with each organisation over a period of 3 to 6 months, and that during that period we'll obviously overlap the organisations that we're working for rather than trying to work with 80 providers right from the beginning. So we'll phase you over a period of time. All of the mentoring, as I said, is due to be completed by the end of May, and the contract that we have with DCSI ends on the 30th of June 2018. So we're looking to complete everything by the end of June next year. In terms of the focus areas for your action plan, as I said, we're looking at content across 6 key areas. So understanding the market is really looking at your understanding of the space that you're operating in, who your competitors are, how you stack up against your competitors or other providers of those services, recognising that those might be other not-for-profit providers, but also individuals, businesses, other agencies that you're perhaps unfamiliar with as competitors prior to, or collaborators even prior to, the NDIS environment. We'll also work with you to help you understand and break down perhaps your services to clients, and particularly looking at how those fit against the services that you can claim under NDIS. We'll work with you to understand your marketing and pipeline. So now that you'll be working with individuals and effectively selling your service to individual participants and their carers and families, how are you marketing, how are you reaching those people and building a pipeline of new referrals and new clients coming into your organisation. Looking at the business model, so if you've been primarily grant funded previously and moving to more of a fee-for-service model, what does that mean for your business model? And what does the new arrangements around payments on an individual basis in arrears mean for you from a financial perspective if you've been predominantly grant funded in advance previously? We'll also look at, as I said, some of the hygiene factors. So are you meeting the compliance requirements for for NDIS, the quality requirements that are in place, but also that you're providing quality that sets you apart from other people working in the space. And have you got the systems and processes in place to help you receive service bookings, make payment claims, and also meet the NDIA audit requirements? The final piece we're looking at is workforce leadership and governance. So is your workforce ready? And we appreciate that covers a range of areas. So that could be around the structure of your workforce. Do you need to look at a more casualised model? The training of your workforce, but also the culture change involved in transitioning to NDIS. How is your leadership equipped to manage change and implement change in your organisation? And how is your board engaging with this? So is the governance of your organisation effective in supporting you through this process? So those are the key content areas that we'll work through. The number of organisations involved in this programme, as I said, is over 80, and looking at the list of providers engaged, we have a range of not-for-profit, a few government agencies, and a significant range in size from some quite small providers through to some very large organisations. So whilst we're working on a common model to provide consistency and equity across that, we recognise that people are going to be in very different places. So the idea of working across these 6 areas of content content is to look at, actually, if you're all right on some area, we're not going to spend a lot of time dwelling on it. If you're ready and good to go, then there's no need for us to focus on that area, but to prioritise the areas that need most attention. So as we develop your action plan, we'll be prioritising the things that you need to work on first to support your transition, and identifying through those priorities where we'll provide additional targeted support, where you might apply for a grant from DCSI, and we'll also schedule out in the action plan your mentoring timetable, which, as I said, is up to 6 sessions. And those sessions will be a combination of face-to-face and then also by phone, Skype, or FaceTime. We'll also, through the action plan, identify the success measures. So what are you trying to get out of this programme, and the outcomes that you're looking to achieve in the longer term, so that we've got a sense of what your big picture objectives are. So one of the key things we wanted to cover in this webinar is to look at the respective responsibilities of CBB and yourselves as service providers during this programme. Obviously, we can lead you through the process, and our idea is to provide you a structured process and guidance to help you manage your transition, to help you analyse those critical gaps in transition and prioritise actions, and to provide you with mentoring. But obviously, we need you to engage fully in that process as well in order for us to really be effective in supporting through this process. So that involves you providing us with accurate and honest information about your organisation and any particular challenges that you're facing, and we appreciate some of that information will be sensitive to you and to your organisation. We're looking to secure the engagement and commitment of key people in your organisation so that we're making decisions at the right level and able to execute those decisions in terms of change. And that you are committed to undertake the actions identified in your action plan, which is why we ask you to sign it off. So in terms of how that works in specific aspects of the programme, we'll be sending out an initial survey to identify those gaps that you might have in your transition plans, but also we'll send out interim, exit and follow-up surveys really to track your progress and to gather feedback. So obviously we're asking you in those areas to complete the surveys accurately, honestly and in full, and with the given time scale, so that we can make the best use of your time by having accurate information that we can work from. In terms of the action planning, we'll give you a phone call once you're allocated to a stage and we're ready to kick off to gather information, further information about your organisation and plan your workshop. We'll then prepare and facilitate that half-day planning session, and we'll document the action plan showing the actions, as we said, the priorities, the targeted support, the mentoring, the grant, but also who's accountable for delivering this work, what are the timelines for it, and what do we see as the success measures to show that you've achieved that progress. So again, we're asking you to provide information in a timely way, to secure the attendance and engagement of relevant staff in that workshop, and to sign off the action plan as an agreed document, then to complete the activities, including working through those changes and decisions. Okay, so in terms of targeted support, I mentioned some of the things that we might cover. So we'll arrange additional targeted support to help you deliver against an action plan activity. That targeted support, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, is limited in terms of what we can offer under the contract and the funding, but we'll agree with you and advise you in terms of what's available within the budget that we have for that. And we ask you again to complete the actions necessary to deliver the objectives under that targeted support, which may include providing information, making decisions, implementing changes, but may also include working closely with consultant to work through a process depending on what that support is. In terms of mentoring, as we said, up to 6 one-hour mentoring sessions to help you work through your challenges in implementing your action plan, and we'll schedule those with you in advance. We're working towards a model where we will do the first and the last of those sessions face-to-face, and the interim ones will be by phone, Skype or FaceTime. So we'll be asking you to attend those sessions at the agreed time and to provide us with accurate and honest feedback on some of the challenges that you're facing in implementing the action plan, and to complete all of your agreed actions between sessions. What we anticipate is that the outcome of many of the mentoring sessions will be some actions that you'll need to take forward in order to overcome roadblocks and challenges. So obviously we're looking to see progress on those between mentoring sessions. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about progress, and we will throughout the course of the programme be tracking progress, the quality of the work, and also the impact. As a not-for-profit organisation ourselves, it's important for us to understand the difference that we're making to you and which aspects of the support that we're providing are most successful in having an impact. That's part of our mission to support the sector in delivering social objectives. So that's very much in line with our values as CBB. So the way that we'll work through this process is that, as I said, we'll be sending out a survey which will baseline for us where you are now, where you plan to be in the next 6 to 12 months. So over the course of working with us, what's the target we're hoping to achieve, and what does that look like in terms of success measures for the programme, and where you plan to get to in the next 3 years. So we can have a sense of what your bigger picture is, so that the work we're doing with you during the course of the programme helps you work towards that longer term aim, not just some quick wins and some immediate priorities in terms of NDIS transition. Throughout the course of working with you, we'll be looking at progress in terms of implementation of your action plan. So we see that as being a dynamic document that gets updated as you progress through the specific actions. And we'll also be tracking quality. We want to deliver a quality service to you, and I'm sure you'd expect it from us. So we'll be looking at sampling documents and through observation and interviews with a sample of organisations to make sure that we're delivering the right quality. And then, as I referenced earlier, we'll also be running an interim survey, so during the course of the programme, getting your feedback on how things are going, but also at exit and after the programme, we'll follow up with you to see how things are tracking. Okay, so what do you need to do next? So the first step, as we mentioned, will be after the webinars, is a survey. So we'll be sending this out to you in the next few weeks. And the purpose of the survey, as I've referenced, is to understand how prepared you are for NDIS. So what have you done already? Where do you still need to do work? To look at the staging, so how do we group our 80+ providers over the next 12 months according to the complexity of your needs and the urgency of the work that needs to be done, depending on when the majority of your clients are transitioning to NDIS. We'll also look at the resourcing, use those survey results to help us identify the resourcing that we need in terms of the specialist skills required to support you in the later stages of us working with you. And we will use the results of your individual survey to prepare the consultant for their initial contact with you. So they're briefed about your organisation before they contact you. The survey falls into 2 key areas in terms of structure. So the first are questions about your organisation and your NDIS services, and then more detailed questions about your preparation to date. And we'll ask you to identify where you are now, where you plan to be in 12 months, and where you plan to be in the next 3 years. In terms of content, that will be against the 6 areas that we've identified and spoken about already. So understanding the market, your service delivery, marketing and pipeline, your business model and financials, your hygiene factors around quality, compliance systems and processes, and also the cultural training and change issues around your people. Because it covers that broad range of areas, you may need to engage colleagues in answering some of those questions. So smaller organisations, it might be that one person's able to be across all of that, but in larger organisations, we're expecting that it might require a few people to be involved in answering the questionnaire. So we'll be using SurveyMonkey for the questionnaire, and that means that you can go back and answer the question in stages, but you will need to answer it on the same computer because the information will be saved against your IP address. So just to be aware that you can't just send the link to different colleagues, and ask them to complete it. You'll need to save it on the one computer. We're currently testing the questionnaire to understand how long it's going to take to complete it, and to make sure that it gets the right balance of giving us enough information, but isn't so lengthy that it becomes a tiresome task for you. So when we send out the link to the questionnaire, we'll let you know how much time we think you need to give in order to complete it. And we're currently working towards a response deadline of the 2nd of June. So one of the things that we've looked at in developing our approach to this program is a model to really try and understand where people are at in their NDIS transition. And we split this into 4 stages, recognizing that your organization may be at different stages in different areas of your work, but it just helps us to get a sense of how far along you are in preparing and managing your transition to NDIS. And we've used a bit of a metaphor around these stages of kind of building a house or moving into a house. So the first stage we're looking at is the plan. So this is really where you've scoped out what you need to do in terms of NDIS, but you haven't done it yet. So you kind of know what the requirements are, but you haven't actioned that. So we're equating that to like having the plans for your new house, but work hasn't started. Then we're looking at the foundation level. So you've got the preliminary work in place. So you've dug your foundations or laid your slab for your new home. And that precedes you being operational. So you've essentially completed all the essential work, and you're able to operate sustainably within the NDIS. So your house is built, you've moved in, you can live there and pay your bills. Or you're looking at a growth level. So you're working towards new opportunities under NDIS. So we recognise that a number of organisations are actually seeing NDIS as an opportunity to grow their business, to do more work, more clients, new services, and perhaps new client groups. So is that something that you're currently at or you're working towards? Which is kind of like you're ready to extend or upgrade your home. So what we'd like to do is just a quick poll with those of you that are on the webinar at the moment to just get a sense of how ready you are for NDIS and which is your area of greatest concern. So I'm just going to run a survey, which I think should be on your screen now. So if you can just click the option which describes how ready you are and then send your votes. Click on the send votes option. So we're just monitoring how many responses are in. A few more to go. Great. We're going to end the voting. And hopefully you will see on screen now how you voted. So didn't quite have everybody voting, but what we got was almost half of you are in the foundation stage, a third on plan, and 10% on operational. So still some work to do in terms of preparing for NDIS. That's really helpful because obviously we look at the list of providers that have been referred to us by DCSI, and it's very difficult for us to make a judgment on how ready you are. So this is really helpful for us in understanding where you're at. I'm going to run another survey now, second question, which is looking at which of these areas is of most concern to you. So we've spoken about these 6 areas, and again, you can just answer one of these, please. We've set it up so you can answer as a single option. So just answer which one is of most concern to you and then click on the send votes button. Just monitoring those results coming through. People taking some time to think about it and changing their minds, which is fine. Anybody else want to vote? We can't see who's voting for which one, by the way, so this part is completely anonymous. Okay, I think we'll end voting now. And again, we've got a couple of people that decide not to vote, which is absolutely fine. And we'll just share those results with you. So business model and financials, by far the largest concern. People not so worried about other areas. And that's, again, very interesting for us. That helps us think about how we can support you best during the course of this programme. And also understanding, I guess, that that's probably the most concern for people because it's the most immediately going to impact on people in terms of transition. So thank you very much for that voting. That's really helpful, and it just makes us a little more interactive in terms of running a webinar with you. Okay, so next thing is just to let you know what we're going to do following the survey. So I think we will send you an MOU. So we've set up a memorandum of understanding that really drafts out and outlines what our respective roles are. So what our role is at CBB and what your role is as a participant in this programme. And that basically covers off the slides I shared with you earlier. We'll also talk about in that MOU how we're managing confidentiality and conflicts of interest. We recognise that a lot of the content we're going to be discussing with you over the course of this programme is sensitive. We're going to be looking at your financials, talking to you about your financials, working with you around workforce issues. So we realise that there is sensitivity there, and so we want to assure you around how we're going to manage confidentiality and conflict of interest. And we're also looking to secure your commitment, so your buy-in to this programme and to ensuring that you have the right people involved in terms of the action planning sessions and the mentoring. So following the survey, we will allocate you to a stage and give you an indicative timeline for kickoff. If you're in the first stage, we'll be contacting you in late June to arrange your workshop and to gather further information. So those will be most likely to be people that are most affected by the 1st of July 2017 rollout date, but also people that have perhaps complex issues that we need to work through. If you're in a later stage, you can access our online resources, and you can also contact us with questions through the website until we start working more directly with you. Just in terms of those online resources, we sent you the login details for the website. That is a dedicated area of our website that is only available to people involved in this programme. And we will include on there resources and links to useful content, both things that we generate, but also content from elsewhere. And we'll continue to develop resources as the programme develops. One of the things that we've observed, and certainly we've had feedback from existing CBB clients, is just the volume of information out there can be a bit overwhelming. So we're trying to curate this quite carefully. So we'd really appreciate recommendations from you in terms of content that you found useful. So maybe articles, tools, websites that you found useful that we can include up there, because we want to really work on recommendations of what people have found helpful, rather than just overwhelm you with lots of information. We've also put FAQs up there about the programme and an opportunity for you to ask questions through the site. Any questions that come in during the course of webinars, via our inbox, through the website, we will develop those into FAQs as well, because we're sure that if you're interested in a question, then other providers will be interested in that as well. So if you haven't accessed the website yet, this is how you can get there. So essentially, it's on the main CBB website. If you click on the For Organisations tab, the bottom option is NDIS Provider Transition. So you click on that option, and that will take you to the login page. So in the email we sent you a password together with your username, which is your email address. So do please log into the site, have a look around, and give us any feedback on anything that you think would be useful. Okay, that is everything we had to cover in terms of content today. You've all been very reserved in asking questions, either because we've covered everything, you wanted to maintain your anonymity, so we don't have anything to follow up with you on in terms of questions, but we will check in to that email address. Please do send any comments, questions, queries through to that address. We have a number of staff that are monitoring that email, so we can hopefully get back to you on anything that comes through in a reasonable time frame, and we'll give that a check check after the webinar to make sure that if there's anything that you've posted during the last half hour